The decision to revitalize, reconfigure Atlanta Motor Speedway might go down as one of the best decisions in motorsports history. Hello, everyone. My name is Brody. The NASCAR Cup Series went down to Atlanta Motor Speedway for the second race of the season, and boy, did this race deliver. I mean, I've never been more confident going to a racetrack, knowing, at least thinking that's going to put on a good show than Atlanta Motor Speedway. It was just heart stopping, heart pumping, crazy action the entire race. We had 57 lead changes, and the race winner won without a right front fender. It was that crazy, that chaotic. I'm so excited to get into it and break it down with you all. The Auto Trader 400 at Atlanta Motor Speedway put on a show that was nothing short of spectacular racing from literally start to finish. Would you believe me that this car, yes, that's right, I'm not showing a wreck car, this car with no right front fender wins the race? Yeah, well, he did. And his name's Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick in the number 45 2311 Racing Toyota Camry brings this thing home with a win, going back to back, securing the point standings lead, and he had a incredible race of perseverance, challenges, the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, coming back to the highest of highs. It was amazing to see him persevere the way he did and rally like he did. To break it down for you simply, he started on pole. There was no qualifying, no practice. It was essentially a COVID 2020 race where you got no practice, no qualifying. You send those cars out there with no laps on them and you hope for the best. Tyler Reddick started first and he led the most laps of the day with 53. Then he was involved in a big wreck, taking away that right front fender. He was like 30th position, rallied all the way back, got into position on the final handful of overtime restarts, and used his knowledge, used his drafting abilities. He makes a pass for the lead himself and drives off into the sunset, getting his second win of the season after having an insane winless streak, not winning last season. He starts off hot with the first two races, winning them both. It is the first time since Matt Kenseth in 2009 that a driver has won the Daytona 500 and the following race going back to back. It's incredible. It's incredible what 2311 Racing, what Tyler Reddick has done. I am just shocked and really happy for that team, happy for Tyler Reddick. It was an amazing, eventful race, yet he came out on top and persevered, like I said, and got the win. This is a hectic race, but we're going to get all into it. Congratulations to Tyler Reddick. Here are my drivers of the day, and I have to give the number one spot to Bubba Wallace, who, I mean, he put on a show up there. The 2311 teammate to Tyler Reddick, he was up there. He led the third most laps of 46, got the stage to victory, and he looked poised to get this win. Things didn't work out in the last handful of laps, the crazy overtimes, and Carson Hocevar trying his best to by any means, but Bubba Wallace still netted a top 10 finish despite almost wrecking like three times in the final lap. I'm happy for him, and I'm proud of Bubba Wallace for after the race. I think if Bubba Wallace, we were in 2019, rookie year, 2021, Bubba Wallace, and this happened, I think he would have got very annoyed, very pissed off, said some stupid things that he would like to have back, would have approached Carson Hocevar in some way. He didn't do any of that. He had a very professional, media trained interview afterwards, said nothing about bad about Carson Hocevar. It was very good to see. I'm happy to see his growth overall. And Bubba Wallace very could have won this race if things did go just a little bit differently. But Bubba Wallace did an amazing job. Carson Hocevar is my second driver of the day just because he puts on a freaking show. He's called the Hurricane for a reason, people. He on the track, he's just crazy. He's an animal. He's a different breed. He sees a run, has any sort of momentum, he's gonna take it. You leave him any kind of gap on the racetrack, he's gonna try to fit his car in there. You saw that with the contact with Christopher Bell. You saw that with the blocks he threw on Bubba Wallace. You saw that the entire race with the runs he took. He's a master at Atlanta in the most like Dale Earnhardt, young Kyle Busch way of intimidation. Get out of my way. I don't care if you don't like me. I'm going to, you know, move your out the way and I'm going to go to the front. I love that attitude about him. We need that in NASCAR. Carson Hocevar, he still brings it home in the top five, despite, again, almost wrecking a couple times on the last lap and putting his car out there on the line. I'm surprised that thing isn't in a bajillion pieces like a Lego set because of how much he used the bumper, how all over the place he was. But nonetheless, he brings it home in the top five. He could have won, but maybe the next Atlanta race he can prevail and just have a little bit better luck on the white flag lap. My next driver of the day is Zane Smith in the number 38 Front Row Motorsports entry. He was up there leading a couple laps, and I'm really proud of Zane Smith because you could tell that car was unstable, out of control. And Front Row Motorsports, yes, they do have Tier 1 Ford backing power, uh, race cars now. But I mean, you haven't seen that kind of speed like a Penske or RFK. And Zane Smith was up there and he led a few laps, got shuffled back, came all the way back, got a top 10. Super good for him. I'm happy for Zane Smith. I predicted he may win a race this year. It's going to be hard with how well everybody else is doing, especially 2311 Racing. I didn't expect them to be this competitive. But if things go well, we get a couple more crazy wrecks at the end of these races. Who knows? Zane Smith, he's up there. He puts himself in position. He did well at the Daytona 500, and he follows it up again at Atlanta. So that's why he's one of my drivers of the day. Finally, Shane Van Gisbergen, the road course king. Gotta give him a shout out for finishing in the top 10 at a drafting track. And he went up there, he did it, and he did it legit. He was in the top 10 most of the day, not at the start of the race, but after the first stage, stage two to late stage three, he was up there and he was up there legit running and being competitive, helping his teammate Ross Chastain. Like he was very competitive himself. And that's good to see his progression moving in the Cup Series, getting these NASCAR tracks, not road courses, more under his belt. And you can see his skill develop because he is really a student of the game and he is progressing and he's progressing fast. So be on the lookout for Shane Van Gisbergen to make a run at this chase and maybe snag a win not on a road course. I know that's a long shot, but it might happen. Who knows? Here are your finishing results. Obviously, Tyler Reddick gets the win back to back, but his JGR Toyota affiliated teammate Chase Briscoe was a big help in him getting the win. They worked together to get around Hocevar. Joe Gibbs Racing was pretty much obsolete the first half of this race. They finally worked it out with some pit strategy. Hamlin, Briscoe were up there controlling the line for a while. And then Chase Briscoe emerges as the second best Toyota of the group. And I think that's rightfully deserved because he was up there later half of stage two in the top five, top 10, more consistent than any other Toyota besides the 2311 racing cars. So a very well-deserved second place for Chase Briscoe. Ross Chastain was coming on at the end. He took 4 tires at that last pit stop sequence when others took 2 or none. So Chastain was up there and he was battling and he ends up getting a podium finish. It was crazy between him and Hocevar, thinking which Chevy would prevail. They lined up together. They were pushing each other. It was Chevy's versus Toyotas. Toyotas come out on top because Chastain got shuffled back. Hocevar pretty much bailed on him, going for the win himself. Can't blame Hocevar for that, but Chastain still manages to come home third. Carson Hocevar, fourth, top 5. Like I said, I forgot to mention early in stage 1, he had a tire go down, went a lap down, still comes back and finishes in the top 5 and had a shot to win. Crazy stuff. Daniel Suarez in the number 7 for Spire Motorsports gets himself a top 5 finish. Congrats to Daniel Suarez. I bet that feels really, really good. Ryan Preece gets a top 10, backing up his Clash win. Good for him. And Ryan Blaney finishes in 10th. You know, it was weird. Early stage 1, you thought Penske, the Fords, RFK Racing, they were the cars to beat. At one point in stage 1, they had all 4 Penske or Penske affiliated cars with the 21 of Josh Berry and the Wood brothers. They were all in the top 10 at one point, along with Brad Keselowski. You thought the Fords would control it. Turns out they were probably the third best manufacturers. I think Chevy's had better handling. I think Toyota's had the longevity, and Ford's just kind of fell off in a way. I mean, Ryan Blaney, top 10. Zane Smith was the highest finishing Ford. That's kind of crazy. I think they were just a little bit off tonight, discombobulated. Maybe the new Chevy body is finally caught up to the Ford Mustang. Who knows? But that's just really interesting, a development to see that in this race. And Ryan Blaney also, he had an interesting comeback story as well. He had a speeding on pit road violation early in stage 1, I believe, and he came back, rallies for a top 10. He was kind of behind the 8 ball all night, was like on the same left side tires for like over 100 laps or close to that. Crazy stuff, but he brings home a top 10. Other notables, Chase Elliott finishes in 11th spot. He was up there battling with the lead with Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, and Austin Cindric in stage 1. And then we kind of never really saw Chase Elliott in the top 5 too much more. He brings it home 11th, probably not what he was hoping for, but this race was so chaotic and the strategy was so chaotic as well. I mean, to be the highest finishing Hendrick car in 11th, that's saying a lot about how this race went. Denny Hamlin comes home in 11th place. He was involved in a crash with Joey Logano. It was a weird, weird crash. You look at it, Hamlin's coming off turn 4. He's got a big run of momentum. It looks like Hamlin gets loose before he gets to Joey Logano. That might have been because he had to tap the brake just a little bit, or at least let off. But you saw the fire out the pipes of Joey Logano, and Logano was tight and just kept sliding, drifting up into Hamlin. Hamlin had a lift, got hit from behind, and that set off a big, big wreck, which changed the flow of the race kind of in a way. But he still comes home and brings it in a modest 13th spot. I bet Denny's honestly happy with that for the crazy, chaotic race and in all the wrecks he was involved in. Brad Keselowski brings it home 17th. It was interesting. In stage 1, I thought Brad had a really fast, competitive car. He just fell off. The car fell off, fell away from him. The handling of the Fords, like I said, just went away. But he did manage to crawl back a little bit in stage 3, got shuffled back. Top 20 finish, probably not what he wanted either. And Joey Logano is right behind him in 18th. He had an interesting day. Same kind of mojo with the Penske cars. It was just a lack of handling. They were up there for bits, for stints, never consistent. He was involved in 2 crashes, started that wreck with Denny Hamlin. He spun by himself at one point. Or sorry, no, he didn't get spun. He got spun out by Carson Hocevar. That was just a weird instance. I think it was a situation where the handling went away on Logano again, and Hocevar just said, "I'm not lifting," because when does he ever lift? And just takes out Logano. I bet a lot of fans were happy about that. Alex Bowman in the 48 comes home 23rd. Not a great start for Alex Bowman this season. Was 40th in the Daytona 500 after being involved in a wreck. Got involved in another wreck, the Denny Hamlin wreck I was telling you about, and he's 2 laps down. So not great for Alex Bowman. He needs to start getting some momentum going his way. I know it's 2 drafting tracks, but it's just like he puts himself in that situation because both races he never progressed forward, was in the middle of the pack, the hornet's nest, and that's what happens when you put yourself in those situations. Austin Cindric got involved in another crash, and he comes home 26th. He started the race off hot, was starting in 30th spot, drove all the way up to first, won the opening stage, got involved in a wreck. Not his fault, not his doing. It was a strange wreck late in the race where William Byron was on the top lane. Don't know if it was a tire went down. Later in his interview, he said he just got loose. We don't really know, but Byron slowed down the backstretch, trying to avoid cars, and then just barely clips Austin Cindric, setting off a big wreck, taking out Austin Cindric in the process. So William Byron does finish in 28th, 15 laps down, manages to get the car going. At least it's not a DNF, I suppose, but he was up there contending with his Hendrick Motorsports teammates. He was working well with Kyle Larson, who I will get to in a moment, but disappointing finish overall for all of the Hendrick cars, besides Elliott, I suppose. Austin Dillon had a big impact. His car was destroyed after the wreck on the front straightaway. It was nasty to see his car comes to a rest on pit lane. Dylan RCR had a nightmare of a race. Both cars DNF. It was not good. I'll get to Kyle Busch in a second, but RCR struggled. Connor Zilic, the rookie, he was up there in stage one, battling inside the top 10. I was rooting for him. I was super happy for him. And then I think the race just kind of got away from him a little bit. He was in the middle of the pack, mired in the middle of the pack, got involved in one of those early crashes, took him out of contention early. Kyle Larson brings it home 32nd with a DNF. This wreck was just weird. Like, Kyle Larson, one of the greatest drivers in the field for NASCAR and in the world considered, just makes a mistake that you don't normally see. I mean, Kyle Larson, you'll hear me say this, Larson has these brain fart moments that you're just like, what are we doing? And then he goes out and leads 400 out of 500 laps at Bristol, and you're like, that is the Larson I know. It's just weird moments Larson does sometimes. I don't understand why. This wreck was so interesting. We're coming to the end of the stage, and Larson's in the middle lane. The entire top lane is free. No one's coming. He can maneuver the top three lanes basically. The only lane that was occupied was by Shane Van Gisbergen and the number 97 on the very bottom lane, the apron basically. Larson comes across the track and just clears himself. Didn't know he was there. The spotter knew he was there. Larson just, it was in his blind spot, I suppose, but that was just a very weird wreck. Takes himself out. SVG goes spinning across the grass. It was just weird overall. Really disappointing because I want Kyle Larson to get one of these super speedway wins, drafting track wins. And if he keeps making mistakes like this, it's not going to happen because he has these fast cars. He led the second most laps, 48, but he just makes these brain fart issues that a driver of his caliber you wouldn't expect to make. Closing out the field is Josh Berry and Ty Gibbs, who had the first crash of the day, and it was a weird one, a misjudged a pass attempt, I suppose, by Ty Gibbs, who just clears himself entirely and takes out Josh Berry in the process. It was just interesting to see, like, where are we going? It is so early. Why are we doing that? Ty Gibbs just cleared himself, hard impact into the wall, lit the grass on fire in the process. That was kind of crazy. But yeah, it takes out Josh Berry too. So those were also the first DNFs of the race. A few more incidents I want to highlight. Kyle Busch had a weird crash where he straight up blames Noah Gragson for his own mistake. I think Kyle Busch should know better than, if I'm sideways or if I'm tight, I'm not gonna pull up in front of the top lane at Atlanta and expect them to yield to me, expect them to give you a second to recover. I don't feel like that's fair for anybody in the top lane. It could have been anybody other than Noah Gragson. I bet he would still blame them. It's just like, come on, Kyle, like you should know better than that. No, it wasn't that no fault. Would you lift in that situation? No, I'm not lifting. Like, I gotta go. I got places to go in this top lane. I'm gonna have a big run. Why am I gonna lift for you to help you manage your own mistake? I don't know. But that was just kind of weird for me to see. In Kyle Busch, he spins, hits the inside wall hard. He's outdone for the day. Looking at this race overall now, I honestly think, guys, this was the best Atlanta Motor Speedway race since the new configuration. I mean, we had 57 lead changes. You could not really ever tell who had the most dominant car because we had so many comers and goers, but the comers and goers were also consistent enough for you to know who was in that group, that top group. Like there wasn't a straight up dominant car per se, but there was a dominant group that included Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Kyle Larson, William Byron. I would say Chase Briscoe and Denny Hamlin later in the race. I honestly would not throw any Fords in there. Like you would expect a Ryan Blaney or Joey Logano. I think Austin Cindric had a good car early on, but that seemed to fade as well. I just can't put any Fords in the top tier group that had a shot to win because the highest finishing Ford was Zane Smith. Props to him, but that's not a good showing from Ford overall as a manufacturer in any way, especially at a drafting style track where that's supposed to be their MO, their forte, and they just kind of dropped the ball tonight. This race featured so much action, so much chaos. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat the entire race almost. And what I liked about this race, about the Cup Series race, if you watched my Truck Series and Xfinity Series review of Atlanta, you would hear me say the bottom lane just gives out every single time. After 10 laps in the Truck Series, it was gone. After about 20 laps in the O'Reilly Series, the bottom lane faded. The bottom lane was competitive and very strong tonight. It really never faded until Chase Briscoe and Denny Hamlin assumed the lead, and Hamlin was using his experience to kind of guide that top lane into not having a bottom lane because he wasn't swerving all over the place, making these like he wasn't allowing that to happen, which was very smart for him. But the bottom lane was competitive the entire time, which made some for amazing racing. You had runs like you're looking at it and you're like, how can a run happen that fast? It's in the blink of an eye. A car is sitting there, gets a big bump, or not even a bump, like just the air, and they shoot to the bottom. Drivers were very aggressive tonight, taking these runs when they had them. And Carson Osvar was a great example of doing that the entire night. And it nets out positive for him and nets out positive for most guys that do that stuff. You had handling factors. Hamlin was all over the place. He was loose. Logano was tight. He was loose. Larson was loose all over the place as well. You had seasoned veterans having a handful of a car. Zane Smith said multiple times and looked out of control at points in that Ford. I think the Fords, again, had the worst handling cars out of any manufacturer. I can safely say now that Atlanta Motor Speedway is my number one bucket list track to go to. I really want to go to Atlanta Motor Speedway race. When Dale Jr. said in that commercial, if if somebody's asking me where what first NASCAR race I should go to, I'm saying I'm here. That whole commercial that literally speaks volumes now. This track is probably the best NASCAR track we have right now that puts on the most consistent good to amazing racing. It's very rare we get the last lackadaisical train on the top where not much is happening. There's no fuel saving BS. There's none of that. Beautiful stuff. Amazing race overall. It was absolute cinema. I thought the broadcast was very good. Mike Joy, Clint Boyer, Kevin Harvick did a good job bringing the energy yet again. I like seeing that. The commercials were plentiful, like they normally are, but I am giving Fox some props with these side by sides. It was good. It was better. If we can translate that over to the Truck Series now, that would be nice. So come on, Fox. I believe in you. Overall, if I were to give a score for this Atlanta race, honestly I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. The what could make it better was the finish. I don't think the finish was like crazy. The last lap was like you kind of knew who was gonna win as soon as he passed Briscoe. So that's me nitpicking. I can't it was an amazing race. It doesn't always have to have a photo finish or two crashes on the last lap like last week. You don't have to have all that. It was an amazing race from start to finish. Those are my thoughts and opinions about the Atlanta Motor Speedway race for the Cup Series. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the race and the controversy the wrecks, the passes, the racing, the spectacle overall. In the comments, I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know how you guys like the video as well. Did you like this new style I did, the formatting I did? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in future videos. I hope you have a great, wonderful, and even splendid rest of your day. See ya.